Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. Now, we've had a huge movie week this week, including the Hulu original movie where the Predator is now in the 1700s to where it all began, in Prey. All aboard for Brad Pitt trying to get a payday by boarding a train full of assassins and Bullet Train. Jo Koy joins his dysfunctional family in Easter Sunday. And finally, the Paramount Plus exclusive Honor Society. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
The Movie Wire podcast.
Oh, there it is.
Just need people like me.
The podcast for hot and trending movies.
The Wire.
Based on the book by Kotaro Asaka, starring Brad Pitt as a professional grab-and-go professional thief, accepts a mission on a bullet train in Japan. Little does he know that 5 assassins aboard the train, and Brad Pitt's easy grab-and-go mission goes completely wrong, only to find out that all 5 assassins have something in common.
Deer Creek International Business Solutions, how can I help you?
I am ready.
Well, that's great, Ladybug.
Ladybug?
Your new operational name?
Oh, I see what you're doing. Ladybug's supposed to be lucky. Ha!
You don't have bad luck.
Really? My bad luck is biblical. I'm not even trying to kill people and someone dies. Remember the suicidal bellboy?
You drove him to the hospital.
Hang in there, buddy!
And he didn't die.
Okay, the wedding. Tequila? Johannesburg. It's time for some change.
You wanted simple for your first job back. Doesn't get simpler.
We need to find the person who took that case.
That's too easy. Shit.
What?
Remember those 2 wackos from the Bolivia job?
The twins?
Yeah, not so sure they're twins.
Get off the train.
You stab me?
I would never stop coming for you.
What? I missed my stop.
Something else going on here.
Hi. You don't remember me?
You look like every white homeless man I've ever seen.
Really? You don't remember me? He's a bag of dicks, lady. I'm sorry. I'm working on it.
Get off at the next stop.
Sounds so easy when you say it.
One little prick from this, you know what happens?
Yes.
Your blood congeals, clogging your veins.
I said yes! Shitballs.
You're going to want to hear the whole story.
What's waiting for us in Kyoto?
The White Death, with his army of assassins.
There's this soulless psychotic leader with the largest criminal organization on the planet, shoved right inside us.
I don't see the White Death letting any of us off this train. We need to come up with a plan. I'm gonna hurt people.
What's happening to your face?
Maybe there was a little head trauma?
Maybe. I gotta get off this train. Sorry, buddy. Come here.
Bullet Train is a film that knows exactly what it is. This would be a movie that I would recommend going and having a couple drinks with a group of friends and enjoy the high-energy spectacle this film tries to be. For the most part, it has its moments of awe and coolness, mostly due to the casting. The entire cast and its rarity all seems to be on the same page when it comes to what kind of film it's trying to make. And this is also thanks to the smart direction of David Leitch, who's known for his high octane with humor. He is responsible for such films as Deadpool 2, The Fast and the Furious, Hobbs and Shaw, and Atomic Blonde. Now, Leitch knows his audience and knows how to polish a spectacle and make it entertaining without overstaying its welcome from the previous films that he's done in the past. And Bullet Train does have its special moments throughout the film, but the writing of the film and the character dialogue runs itself thin during the runtime of the film. The main characters we see in the film, of course, is Brad Pitt as Ladybug, Brian Tyree Henry as Lemon, Aaron Taylor Johnson as Tangerine, who are called the Twins as a professional assassination team. And the actress that's really starting to grow on me, Joey King, whom I recently reviewed her on her Hulu original movie, The Princess, and gave it a ho-hum review and said she had limited speaking lines and the movie held her back, and which held the movie back from the point it was trying to make about women empowerment. This is a movie that showcases her range as an actress, in which she is the most menacing assassin on the train that we actually find a subtle threat. Her character and performance reminded me of the young Reese Witherspoon character in Tracy Flick in the film Election, where she adds an innocent but an aggression towards accomplishment. King does a fantastic job with this in this movie. Another notable actor to look out for in the future musician Bad Bunny. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue in the film, which is a shame because he is the character I mostly think other than Joey King when I think of this movie. I hope to see more of Bad Bunny in future films where I can see more of his range and what he can do, but from the little I saw from him, it has a wide range of potential, and I can't wait to see what more we see in film from him. Now, performances aside, in which they are solid performances across the board, the problem we have with this film is the writing overstays its welcome. It tries to play the chaotic formula in the worst case scenario would be entertaining, but the writing drags it out too long to be entertaining, especially with Brad Pitt's character. His character is so nonchalant, and which is funny at some parts, but it doesn't match the interactions he has with all the characters, which can be a chore to watch at times. And the chore may be due to there's no real character development or actually changes to Pitt's character in general. He is consistently the subtle, dry humor the entire film, and it can be tiring towards the final act, where we want him to do something different after the first half of the movie because his dry humor just becomes boring and borderline annoying because we've already heard it from him from the first half of the film. He doesn't add anything new to the mix or make it entertaining during the second half of the film. The dialogue just draws out, and with newcomer writer Zach Alkowitz has trouble finding out where he wants to go with the material. Now, Alkowitz does a decent job for only one writing project under his belt, which is Fear Street Part 2, and given the inexperienced writing, it does an average job. But it relies mostly on the visual spectacles of the film. But when writing a chaotic situation action comedy, you have to know where you want the characters to go, and this film doesn't have that. Now, this is a prime example of smart direction by David Leitch to compensate for the lack of entertaining dialogue with an eye-candy spectacle that you see on the big screen. But the dialogue is noticeably slow moving towards the last act, where it doesn't know where it wants to go when it comes to our characters, but it does add different situations to try and keep the audience entertained. This is a movie that would have been suited more towards a 90-minute runtime to ensure that the audiences stay engaged. The added runtime doesn't add anything to the film that's memorable. What would have helped this film is Pratt's character is more chemistry and scenes of him and his higher-up boss, Maria, that Pitt spends select scenes on the phone with her directing him and encouraging him. This is some of the best chemistry of the film, and this is what I wanted more of. This would have helped Pitt's character become more engaging. It adds a new certain depth to his character by being vulnerable with whoever is on the other end of the phone. Towards the final act is where I'm torn. And to be perfectly honest, I am completely biased. I am a sucker for whenever the song Holding Out for a Hero plays in a film. There are only 2 songs in film that hype me up to enjoy the film a lot more than I should. And one of them is Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler, or in this case, a Japanese version by Ashikura Miki. The final act is absolutely eye-catching and entertaining and is the most memorable part of the film, but it feels a bit rushed, like they jam-packed whatever they missed in the first half of the movie and saved it for the last. And that's what makes this film a little unbalanced. The parts I wanted to end just kept going, and the parts I wanted more of ended before they should have. Now, Bullet Train could have been one of those, let's go to the bar, have a few drinks, and go see a fun action film. But I'll be honest, I had a couple drinks before the film, and it was just an average film to me. The dialogue and runtime were not in sync to define it as one of those let's have a couple drinks and a good time kind of film. The film has its moments, but had more moments where it didn't know where to stop and just move on. It was like I was stuck behind a person in a grocery store aisle, moving one step at a time at the slowest speed ever. And I'm trying to go around, but the person is in the center and you're signaling your hands to go faster and it never happens. You just have to wait. I'm giving Bullet Train 2.5 stars. Jo Koy stars in his first major motion picture set around a family gathering to celebrate Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday is based on Jo Koy's life experiences with his career, family, and lucky for us, he brings it into this dreadful major motion picture. That makes me sad, not for Jo Koy's family or life experiences, but for his career after making this film.
Joseph, are you coming for Easter?
I don't know, Mom. I'm really busy. I just tested for this pilot.
You're going to be a pilot?
A network pilot for like a TV show.
Ah, you're playing a pilot on the TV show.
No, a lawyer.
You could have been a lawyer if you only applied yourself.
Little father and son road trip. It's gonna be fun. Easter Sunday is like the Filipino Super Bowl.
There he is. There's my kuya.
Welcome home, bro. See you tonight, okay?
I just got here.
You got to follow your dream and become a beer spokesman.
That wasn't my dream.
Let's get the party started, baby!
And I got to follow mom's dream and become a nurse.
Joe?
Vanessa.
Yeah, Joe Valencia. You still driving that same raggedy-ass car? What happened? You just gave up, huh? And this your dad? You know, me and him used to be real intimate back in the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I could have been your mama. But clearly I'm not.
Yeah.
I've literally never seen this many Filipinos in the same place before.
We're sending gifts to our family in the Philippines. I'm sending this brand new hairdryer. If it makes your hair look like that, I wouldn't send it. How dare you? How dare you?
We should put them both in the box and ship it.
My mom is at war with my Tita Teresa, and they don't even know why. Did you really have to wear the same dress as my mom?
Oh, I can't help it if I wear it better. This is war. Oops.
Family is a mess.
We're counting on you to fix it.
Bye!
Ladies and gentlemen, we're all we got. So let's get the party started, baby!
I got a feeling.
Moments like these are few and far between. Let's enjoy it.
Tonight.
Everyone buckle up.
Filipino families fight a lot,
Make sure you're not late for dinner.
but we love a lot too.
Your cousin Eugene owes me a lot of money. Could you lend it to me?
No!
Does he have a death wish? The Lux is legit crazy. I once saw him shoot someone in the dick.
What?
Right in the actual hole.
In the hole.
Here we go! Here we go! We gotta rock! Where is my money?
Here are my ATM cards. My PIN number is 1217. Oh, so is mine.
Oh, ours,
Mine too. Mine too. Yeah.
Why do you all have the same PIN number?
It's Manny Pacquiao's birthday.
Oh, right. The guy who couldn't beat Mayweather.
Nessa, can we go get coffee?
You can go ahead and email me. Pretty much the same. Just take the AOL off.
That bitch Nessa
At
dailycity.gov. Got it.
Now, there's one thing this movie does do right when it comes to connecting to the audience. We have all been there, where sometimes we dread going to family events. This film makes us feel the same dread while sitting through this movie. It's like trying to avoid your crazy uncle that wants to talk to you about politics. I always try and find something positive in a film, and I will continue to do so. I am also going to try and do so while I give this review. Now, I'll be honest, I have seen Jo Koy's comedy a couple of times on YouTube. I didn't remember his name going into this film, but once he came on screen and the opening credits played some of his stand-up, I did recognize him. His stand-up, from what I remember, is pretty entertaining. Not entertaining enough for me to remember his name, or I might just be out of the loop. But that shouldn't matter when reviewing this film. Easter Sunday has a great concept, a great bunch of likable characters, and it is a perfect platform for a stand-up comedian to sell his comedy to a worldwide audience. Let's take stand-up comedian and take him back to his roots and spend a day with his Filipino family. The formula is recycled, but the heart can still be original as well as the comedy. The film's synopsis is pretty straightforward, that this is a story based on Jo Koy's life experiences, which you would think would include his stand-up style. When we see a stand-up comic give his routine about his family before the film, the filmmakers set the bar high with confidence that this is going to be a riot. You can tell the filmmakers wanted to play it safe. After the stand-up comedian does his thing, the film starts off with some mildly funny moments involving Koy's ex-wife and new husband. But once Koy's family comes on screen, it's like Koy walked in on his parents having sex. It just became mild. The mood completely changed into a film that tries to land some mild jokes that's not even enough to make you smile. The whole film plays just like a sitcom that waits for the laugh track to commence before moving on. But the track isn't there, which is a shame. This film is filled with a lot of characters that I really wanted to get to know better, and it was a great setup for where this film could have gone. Easter Sunday doesn't know what it's trying to be. It loses complete focus, which should be on the family conflict and relationship, but totally derails by adding a subplot of gangsters wanting money that makes no sense whatsoever. This is where I feel that they steered away from the family topics to not offend or misaddress some of Koy's family, which is commendable in one aspect, but begs the question of why make a movie in the first place. place if you didn't know what kind of movie you wanted to make. The film was directed by Jay Chandrasekhar, who's responsible for some of the great comedic projects, including his most famous Super Troopers, Club Dread, and great sitcoms such as The Goldbergs, Fresh Off the Boat, The New Girl, Blue Mountain State, and many others. He is a master at his craft when it comes to comedy. Now we have this, which will be a stain on his resume for sure. It came to a surprise to me that he would have his name attached to this film. It made me think that this film must have undergone a series of material rewrites during the film process. It wouldn't be a shock to me that this went through a nightmare of filming because this movie seems like it's very sloppy and the comedic timing isn't there. It almost feels like the entire crew wanted this movie to be over with. It is the definition of just pure sloppiness. The editing is all over the place where we see facial expressions get suddenly cut off, in which we think it's going to another shot but ends up cutting to the same actor only with a different facial expression. Now, here's a positive. Jo Koy seems to be a likable guy on screen, and I would like to give him another chance with better material. His acting was a hit or miss in the film, but he did spark my attention to at least be likable on screen. If there is a positive takeaway, is Jo Koy, he just needs to sharpen his acting skills. By the end of the film, where we reach the climax, it becomes so absurd with the subplot. The family that I was really wanting to get to know and I wanted more screen time, they build no chemistry because the film is so distracted on other things going on. And then the film decides to have a big family speech about togetherness, an attempt to tie this film up with an artificial family moral speech that's supposed to tug at our heartstrings but in no way has earned the right to do so. It comes across like an insult to the audience. This film could have been and should have been a character comedy. The characters give us a little glimpse of how likable they are, but they don't explore that. And again, this would have been a perfect formula for a stand-up comedian and his actual life experiences with his family, with the normal messaging of how important family is. Now, even though we've seen that plot point over and over and over again, but given the filmmaker's talent and the talent of Koy himself with his comedic timing, they had an opportunity to make it fresh. And if this is based on Koy's life experiences, gangsters coming after him, that should have been a whole different film. This movie made me more frustrated than I should have been. I had to stop myself from walking into the theater numerous times, hoping that the film would actually focus on the family. At one point, I think I got to the bottom of the stairs and had to convince myself to sit back down. Easter Sunday is a day of resurrection, and I hope this movie never gets resurrected and gets buried in the ground permanently. This is the worst movie I've seen all year. I'm giving Easter Sunday half a star. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, don't forget to check out my reviews for movies that just hit streaming and are available to rent and buy now, including Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, the Toy Story spinoff Lightyear, Minions: The Rise of Gru, Miss Harris Goes to Paris. You can find those reviews on my previous episodes, and just a reminder, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit follow or subscribe, and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MovieWire Show. Now let's hear from our friends over at My Work Life.
Have you ever had a bad day at work?
Well, My Work Life podcast is perfect for you.
Hosts Jay and Kay share listeners' entertaining stories from the workplace, which may have you thinking you don't have it so bad after all.
Find My Work Life on your favorite podcast platform.
Our Alien Hunter is back in the prequel to the Predator franchise. Hulu's original movie Prey is an interesting origin story of the Predator in the world of the Comanche Nation over 300 years ago, where we have our brave heroine Naru, a skilled female warrior, fights to protect her tribe against one of the first highly evolved predators to land on Earth.
There's something out there. I'm coming with you.
You can't.
I'm trying to protect you.
Protect me from what? Prey is set in the 1700s, 300 years before the first movie. And it is this creature's first time on Earth trying to find the most worthy opponent.
The Predator's hunting is just for sport. He's here to compete in a game, and he's here to win.
We have him.
No, he has us.
This Predator, he's very primal. He's going back to basics.
He's coming for us.
He's pretty fierce.
He's always looking for a fight. But when he looks for his prey, he always goes after the alpha.
He hunts with earlier versions of weapons we had seen before, like the net device. And there's the weapons that we haven't seen. This shield that unfurls, and then the cut clamp. This is going to be a fight to the end. To see who is the predator here. Who is the prey.
Now, Prey is the 5th entry in the Predator franchise, 7th if you include the disappointing Alien vs. Predator editions, and is the very first Predator film to skip theaters and go directly to streaming. And now it is streaming on Hulu. Now, the first initial reaction to directly to streaming, I didn't have high hopes for this film. It shows the studios didn't have the confidence in the film, which is a shame, especially if you take the dumpster fire like Aliens vs. Predator Requiem that had a budget of a respectable $40 million and ends up making $128 million at the worldwide box office. Even if we take all the Predator sequels, each one pockets close to $80 million over budget. The franchise and the Predator brand is most consistent when it comes to banking in at the box office. Now, it's not a record-breaking, but definitely shows a consistent following for the franchise. Prey is the type of film I wish I could have experienced on the big screen. It only took the studio 30 years to figure out that less is more. We don't need a film that just has body counts every 10 minutes, one death scene trying to compete with another death scene on gore and coolness factor. Prey does something the other entries failed to do, which is create an environment that adds to the suspense and supports the characters and their actions. Whereas we take the original 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger, where we find an environment that's enclosed in the Amazon jungle, traveling from one unknown brush to another. We now have a wide-open world that director Dan Trachtenberg and cinematographer Jeff Cutter do a fantastic job at exploiting and bringing the audience into this world. Trachtenberg does a great job taking this open world and providing when you're in the woods, knowing the land, and even in a more spread out setting can be just as suspenseful as a more intimate and closed environment. In no way was the first Predator closed off by being in the jungle, but original director John McTiernan did utilize a lot of close-up shots to give us the audience the feel of being isolated, even though it was a big jungle environment. It almost gives us a feeling that every leaf, every brush, every tree opens up a brand new world. Trachtenberg does the opposite with his rendition of the character's environment. He embraces the open scenic environment and treats it like a blank canvas for our characters. It puts the audience in a situation where we haven't seen the Predator, but yet it seems familiar. It respects the premise of the Predator to be an actual hunting grounds to be faced with multiple challenges of the terrain. The filmmakers actually give us more of a foundation of what the Predator is there to do instead of just giving us the assumption of the Predator to kill, kill, kill. We see the Predator track, we see him look for challenges, we see him leave the weak if it deems not a potential challenge or threat. This is all without, of course, spoken words. It just hints by actual actions of the actual hunter. Trachtenberg spent a great deal of thought into detail on the vision of this film. From the way the wind interacts with the camouflage to the blood splatters on the camo hidden suit, there are a lot of these small details that require multiple views to pay attention to the hunting details, and the small details that the filmmakers put into this. Now, when it comes to the actual casting of the film and the acting, this is where the film loses a little bit for me. In ways, I feel the movie should have gone the way of The Revenant to little to no speaking lines. I think this would have heightened the actual story and suspense and given it a little bit more historical accuracy. And I know I'm here ranting about a Predator film and historical accuracy, but going the way of silent would have added to the environment and just the actual tenseness of the film. This would have helped the performances as well, where we don't get top-notch performances here, and the performances, in my opinion, were a little disappointing. This is what holds the film back from pure perfection. Now, all the performers, when it comes to action scenes and body language, is all fine here. Where it falls apart is when they speak. That comes across like performing in a film that was meant for streaming. It's all artificial and not believable, at times overacted. There is no believable sense of awe or horror in what they're witnessing for the first time. Now, Amber Midthunder, who plays our main character Naru, gives it her all, and it was a valiant effort. When delivering basic dialogue, she does just fine. But when the scene requires multitasking with lines and moving, you can tell she is out of her comfort zone. It was like watching your kids in a marching band practice for the first time, attempting to march and play an instrument at the same time. There's a lot of fumbles, and in no way is Amber Midthunder a bad actress. She has many incredible performances, including 2016's Hell or High Water. This film, Midthunder, might have not been bought in on the script or had trouble interpreting how to deliver the simplistic lines to a proper motivation while doing the action scenes. Prey focuses not only on the threat of the predator, but threats of the environment, terrain, and at times the characters that are in it. It is the only Predator film in the franchise that can hold a candle to the original, and at times outshines the original. The thing that baffles me is that it took the studio and filmmakers 30 years to figure out a proper sequel to the original that just doesn't have a bigger body count and adds backbone to keep the story standing. It is a must-see for any fan of the franchise that can appreciate the characters and the details that went into this film. My only wish is that it was given a chance to see on the big screen. Prey, I'm giving 3.5 stars. It gets so hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today. Now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus, a battle for Harvard is underway as an overachiever, Honor, sole focus to get accepted into a prestigious school, and is willing to do whatever it takes. That includes making a plan to take down her top 3 competitors until things take a turn when she unexpectedly falls for her biggest competition.
My name's Honor, and you're gonna say I'm the classic overachiever. I started a school karate club and the food bank for the economically disadvantaged, while never letting my grades suffer. For me, high school is about getting out of high school. And I'm going to the #1 college in the world.
Honor, my best and brightest. I have a connection with the admissions people.
I had no idea. I knew this in 9th grade.
You are in my top 4 choices. I'm tuning the G-string.
Wait, did you say top 4? In this school of underachieving losers, there's only 3 people it could be. But only one is an actual threat. Michael Dipnicki. I've got to get him to tank his midterms. What's the plan? Hey, Michael, would you be willing to study with me?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
The first wave of my campaign, throw the nerd off. What's the matter?
We should probably get to work, because I need a scholarship. Yeah, you might break the tip off.
Slutty. You followed him home? I'm not obsessed with him or anything.
Time for the evening concert.
Just trying to figure him out.
Everybody ignores me, but you don't.
Must be so lonely.
Yeah, you get it.
I do. I think I like him. But it's just another obstacle to overcome. I'll destroy anyone who gets in my way.
Coming to my next show, I'm gonna call your mom, tell her you do drugs. I just feel like you're pretending.
I don't want to hurt him, but I've got to play dirty. I'm a bitch. You're a bitch. You remember I took karate, right?
Something's wrong.
Nothing's wrong. It's been a 4-year plan, and it's coming to a close today.
Here is a flyer from my show.
A flyer's like a tweet that ruins the environment. We need to tweet that.
Here comes a film that will remind you of a toned-down version again of 1999's film Election mixed with a little bit of Mean Girls. The film starts off with our main character, Honor, played by Angourie Rice from Spider-Man Far From Home and The Nice Guys, who gives a narration of the synopsis right from the get-go of what her intentions are. That seems a little long for the premise of the film, almost to let the audience know this isn't a film like 1999's Election. Honor goes over the analyzation of each of the characters she needs to take down to achieve her goals. At At first, this seems like a drawn-out narration and sets the tone that this might be a lazy attempt to introduce those characters, but as we dive deeper into the film and actually benefited the film by letting the filmmakers dive deeper into conflict with the characters. First thing that stands out as we go through the interactions with Honor and the supporting cast is the chemistry, especially with Mrs. Rice and Gaten Matarazzo from Stranger Things. They do have a fun and playful chemistry that just looks like they're enjoying making the film. Matarazzo is perfectly cast here when he comes across confident in his intelligence, but also knowing he isn't that popular. And by the end of the film, I would ask you to look back and look at his performance holistically, because Matarazzo's performance was strategically planned from the start to the end on the amount of confidence he puts into his role. The standout performance in this film has to go to Amy Kewum, who plays the socially awkward Kennedy, who steals the show whenever she is on screen for her subtle but over-the-top performance. Every moment she's on screen, I wanted to see more of her. There's a certain element to this film that when the characters are on screen, they are quite pleasant to watch, especially when they interact with each other. The chemistry between them all, you can tell, is established off-screen and on-screen. The entire cast on screen seems to flow with the story and makes it believable. The film was written by David Goodman, who is a very diverse writer when it comes to small screen and big screen. He's responsible for a handful of Family Guys, The Orville, Futurama, Star Trek Enterprise, and the upcoming Rugrats movie. It would be hard to pinpoint his writing style in this film with how diverse his resume is in the industry. Now, the comedy in the film isn't laugh out loud. We see it in some of his works on the small screen, but it's just enough of the comedy to make it cute and to make the audience smile. But he has some very clever things happening in this film, where he may not necessarily understand high school life in current times, nor does he pretend to. He keeps the details simplistic to stay in his element and still make the characters believable. The one thing that's apparent is Goodman's lack of knowledge of social media in high school. He describes it in the film as an older male would. Given Honor's plans and seeing the cast on their phones quite a bit in this film, especially a scene involving a fight that everybody has their phone out. A good integration of today's technology and social media could have taken this film to another level. But Goodman, in all fairness, does make his characters realistic and engaging, even though they're simplistic, with some twists and turns in a film that doesn't feel forced. The main problem with the film, which when we have a lot of build-up and investment into the characters, the film tends to become uneven and forced towards the end, and confuses the audience on what we should be feeling. There isn't a lot of discovery or depth into the twist of the film. It's just kind of feels thrown in and makes the audience question whether or not we should be rooting or having feelings for the manipulative high school student just because she learned a lesson. The film doesn't make its messaging clear, or if it's clear, I'm not sure if it's the right messaging for the film. The film has a great build-up, but the end doesn't know where it wants to go. It comes across like it thinks it's more clever than what it is. The film gives an artificial feeling of goodness towards the end, but looking back at the film holistically, one would have to think that this film actually should have made you feel good. Given the amount of manipulation in this film, I don't know if the ending should have come across the way it did. Honor Society is a one-time watch that has no need for multiple times, nor will you find a need to. The film is an okay time to kill a couple of hours before heading off to bed for the night. It's one of those wind down for the night kind of movies, and by the time you wake up, you have to remind yourself what you watched, and you even will probably struggle to even remember the name of the film. The performances are great, the casting is great, the chemistry between the actors and actresses are noticeably good, but the film struggles from what the messaging it wants to portray, lacks current topics to keep it current, and comes across by the end of the film too simplistic for what it thinks it's trying to accomplish. I'm giving Honor Society 2 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. Again, thank you all for listening, and thank you all for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram and Twitter and leaving me a review. Until next week, do me a favor and make sure you stay for after the credits of a film to show your support for those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film, and make sure you support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show, or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.